Good afternoon and welcome everyone to another one of our chats. My name is Daphne. I am a caseworker here at LCH and I'm joined by Maria from DVCCC. Hello, Maria.
Hi, guys.
Today we'll be talking about what a discussion or a disagreement with a partner in a healthy relationship looks like. So, Maria, how can we engage in a productive conversation with our significant other so that we both can be heard and respected, especially when we don't see eye to eye on whatever? How can we avoid a disagreement from turning ugly or maybe even dangerous?
I think it's a great question. I think honestly, one of the things, especially in our society, is that people have a negative view of not seeing not seeing eye to eye on things. And I think that with the word conflict comes that view. And so I think it's important for us to see that you can disagree and do so in a healthy way. And I think part of that is being able to have a conversation where you can say, like, I don't agree with you. This is the way I see it. This is how I feel about this particular matter, or whatever it may be that you may be discussing, and say so strongly, like be able to communicate your point and feel safe enough to do so. And I think that in itself is a reflection of a healthy relationship, because you do feel safe and strong enough and empowered enough to say, I don't agree with you. This is how I feel. But, we can agree to disagree and then go forward from there.
Do you think that maybe perhaps some people need to like establish ground rules when they come together to discuss, say, like hot topics for them, that fits in with each person's boundaries?
I love that. I think that it's super important to communicate boundaries effectively. I think it's important to share how you may interpret certain things. So when somebody raises their voice, it may cause the other person to shut down or not want to communicate and completely even walk away from the situation. So I think it's important to lay out those boundaries. Like, for example, I'm not going to raise my voice and I expect that you don't raise your voice at me. Don't talk at me. No name calling, that type of thing. Just because I think those things are important to set from the beginning as the foundation to say, we're going to have this discussion, but none of these things are allowed. And this is why, and then proceed forward from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. You both have to come together with mutual respect, not minimize each other's feelings or opinions, definitely not humiliate the other person. That's a major no-no.
Yeah, I agree.
And like you said, be open and honest. And sometimes that means you have to get in touch with your own feelings, know exactly what the issue is, so that your conversation doesn't get derailed or sidetracked by, maybe some other hidden issue that you haven't had a chance to talk about. So I'm just going to give you an example. You blow off the handle when you see, your significant other's shoes in the middle of the living room, and it's not really about the shoes. It's really about, I feel overwhelmed. I feel that you're not pulling your weight as much as you should. Mm-hmm. And so, you can't really engage in a very productive conversation because you're not getting to the heart of what the real issue is.
I completely agree. I think it's important too to point that out, that you just said it perfectly. Like, I think it could be that one little thing that sets it off and might have caused somebody to blow up, when in reality it's all of these other little things or other big things that potentially mounted up and caused that one blow up over the shoes in the room, when in reality it is about the fact that I'm overwhelmed, that you haven't noticed, that I feel neglected, that you're frustrating me, and just going forward from there. So being able to tackle the root of that, which is actually like being overwhelmed and not about the shoes, but the fact that the shoes are like the last straw. I think even recognizing that is super important, because we all have triggers and we never necessarily even know when the triggers are coming. And while that may be something that triggered you, I think it's important to get to the root of it and say, you know what, this is actually what's wrong with me. This is actually why I'm upset. And being able to have that conversation in a healthy way, I think it's important, because you're going to have your disagreements. And I think that that's what people are afraid of. I know for me, like, I was with my ex-boyfriend for 4 years, and it was a super toxic relationship. He was horrible to me, but in that relationship, I always thought in my head, well, we don't really argue. We rarely argue, so it's healthy. We're in a healthy relationship. When in reality, I was just very, very afraid of bringing things up or triggering him. So I was always walking on eggshells. And I didn't feel comfortable enough to say, you know what, I don't agree with you. I don't like how I'm being treated. I don't like when you treat me this way or talk at me or come at me this way. And I didn't feel safe enough to have that conversation. So I think that that's one of the biggest things too, is to feel safe enough to have that conversation.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So, do you have any tips as to, some tips so that people can have a productive conversation or disagreement?
I think one of the most important parts was exactly what you were saying earlier, is stating those boundaries. Boundaries for me may be different from the boundaries that my significant other has. And I was actually having this conversation with one of my best friends, because for her, like when she gets angry, when she gets upset, she wants to walk away. She needs to walk away. She needs a break. She just doesn't want to handle in that moment, versus her boyfriend is very much like, babe, let's handle this right here and now, because I want to fix this. I'm like him. So I'm like, I understand his point of view. Like, I agree with him. And she's like, no, you don't understand. I need a break. I need to walk away so that I can process and assess and then come back and have that healthy conversation. So even being able to say those things, like, you know what, me walking away is not me leaving you or walking away from your shutting down. This is me taking the time to process so that I don't say anything out of anger, and that I can come back and reassess the situation in a little bit to say, okay, this is what upset me, this is what triggered me, and go forward from there.
I very much respect her approach, and I totally agree. I think sometimes things get a little bit heated. The air is too emotionally charged,
Yes.
and people do not think clearly. And
Yes.
sometimes I think, go back to what I learned in kindergarten. Maybe it's time to take a time out,
Yeah.
gather your thoughts,
Yeah.
take a breather, and then come back with a better attitude,
Yeah.
a better place. And talking about going, now that you're laughing about going back, this is something I
Right.
time even with my own kids. This is remembering kindergarten, the things that we learned, mutual respect, play nice. We don't name call. We don't accuse anybody of
Yeah.
anything. No finger pointing. And I guess, we could apply that.
We could definitely apply that
to a conversation among adults as well.
It's so true. I think we always need to take a moment too to go back to the basics. Sometimes we need it. It might sound a little trivial, but kindergarten basics always work. Sometimes we need a nap. Sometimes we need a food. We need a timeout. We just need to take the time to reassess and process, and then come back to it and readdress it at another time, at a later time when we're not as emotionally charged, as you just said, and be able to say, you know what, this is what upset me. I don't like when you do this. And I apologize for blowing up because I didn't realize that was a trigger, but going forward, this isn't okay. And being able to set that precedent, I think, goes a long way.
And something that I've always told my children, always trust your gut feeling.
Yes.
There's something true there that, is trying to communicate something to you, and you should listen to it. And that's why I so much believe in just what your friend does, which is time out. I need to walk away. I need to reflect. I need to digest everything that's going on, and get in touch with your own feelings, and be able then to come back and express exactly how you feel.
Absolutely. I completely agree too. I think it's also important to remember that, in a healthy situation, you can disagree and be able to express your emotions and your feelings about that and feel safe enough to do so. Whereas in an unhealthy relationship, in a violent relationship, in a toxic relationship, you're not going to feel safe enough to do that. It's not an environment in which you feel safe enough to say, you know what, this is how I feel. You kind of cower away or shy away from that. And you don't want that. You want to feel like you can say, we don't agree on this. At the end of the day, we don't agree, but I'm still going to choose to love you, and I'm going to walk life with you anyway. So,
Maria, and I guess ultimately, if despite your best efforts, you feel that you cannot have a civil or a productive agreement, a disagreement, or conversation, discussion with your significant others, maybe it's time to realize, well, maybe this is not working out. This is not the relationship I want to be in.
Absolutely. And there's so much strength and power that comes from being able to say, you know what, I love you. However, I need to recognize that this table no longer serves me. Like, that's something that I've just been learning in life, period, in friendships, romantic relationships, across the board. Like, I want to be able to say I'm strong enough to walk away from a table that no longer serves me. And that's important. That's important for you to realize, for your self-worth, for your value, for who you are as a person, and what you ultimately deserve.
Very interesting. I like very much that saying.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yes, it is. Well, this has been very interesting. You've given us quite a few things to think about, Maria, and thank you, and I thank everybody for joining us today.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.